Hey SharePoint developers, do you want to learn how to become a master at the SharePoint framework and improve those skills to become a ninja in your enterprise? Okay, I know, it sounds corny, sorry about that. I've got a full day workshop. It's called Level Up Your SharePoint Framework Solutions for the Enterprise. Now I assume that you already know what the SharePoint framework is. I assume you've already built some stuff with the SharePoint framework. You know what web parts are and how to access data. The trick is now is how do I take those things that I've built and how do I bump them to the next level? How do I bump my development skills to the next level? How do I improve on reducing the amount of time that I have to spend on testing my applications and deploying them? In this full day workshop, we're going to level up that skill set like you wouldn't believe. I'm first going to talk about testing. We need to see how to implement automated testing on our projects, both so that I can see my tests run while I'm coding to address any issues that come up. I can replicate bugs very easily that my customers have reported so that I can address them and fix them and check and close those issues that have been opened up. I can also ensure that any other changes that I've made to my component, say I stepped away from this project for the last month or the last 2 or 3 weeks, and they asked me to make a new change. So I make the change. Is that going to affect anything else? Anybody else ever been there? I have. I'm always terrified about rolling stuff out and coding new things after I haven't touched the project in a few weeks. With testing, it exposes all of those different issues. So we're going to see how to use the Jest test framework to add it to your SharePoint framework project, installing all the dependencies and setting up the configuration that you need for Jest. I'm going to show you, if you use React, how you can use a tool called Enzyme that works great with Jest. And then I'll allow you to test the rendering of your React components as well. So you can make sure that the data that's being passed in is going to render out the UI that you expect. Make sure that that button gives you back the object that you expect when that button is clicked. You can test all of that stuff automatically. I'm going to show you how to do all of that stuff in this workshop. And I'm also going to show you how to do like a little one-click install so that all the dependencies and all the configuration stuff is all done for you. So you can just do npm install Jest and then this preset and ta-da, you get everything that you need. In addition, we're also going to dive into the whole concept of DevOps, and we're going to learn how can I automate the process of building my application, automatically running all of my tests. And if those things go well, then how do I push it to a SharePoint environment? Maybe if I'm developing on a feature branch or a bug fix branch or a development branch, I want it to go to a testing tenant, or maybe I want it to go to a QA tenant. Or if I'm pushing to master, I want that to go to a production tenant. Maybe I want that before that goes to that production tenant. If all those builds and tests are green, I want to have an approval step to when I click approve, then it will manually get pushed out to our production environment. I'm going to show you how to use Azure DevOps to do all of that and maybe a couple other options as well. That's really going to, when you reduce the amount of time from building to deploying your stuff and being able to test it, if you can reduce that amount of time, it's going to save you a lot of time. It's going to save your customers time, and it's actually going to let you ship more stuff and deliver more features to your customers when you can kill the cadence down or drop the cadence down or increase the cadence and drop the time down that it takes to do all of those different steps. But wait, that's not all. We're going to learn something else. We're going to learn how to use something called Azure App Insights or Application Insights in your project to do some really cool stuff. I'm going to show it how you can measure all kinds of telemetry in your app, especially if you have a React app. I'm going to show you how to do some special stuff with React. Maybe you want to see how people are using your application. Maybe I want to see how people are, what parts of my application are a little slower than others, or maybe some edge cases aren't being caught. But if I can see how people are or are not using my application, I can maybe address it. Maybe there's this button, this new feature that we've created. No one's clicking on it because it's not obvious. So maybe we add a little feature without any feedback from my users, and all of a sudden now this new feature is being used that the customer thought was going to be such an important new feature. I'm going to show you how to implement those things. But App Insights is more than that. We can also go in and collect a bunch of information about the user's experience. We can use it to even go in and log bugs or log tracing information. You know when a user calls up and says, hey, your component died? And you're like, okay, can you go do this, 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 and this, and look in the JavaScript console to see what kind of errors you get? Yeah, customers never want to do that, and it's a pain for us developers to get them to do those things. But wouldn't it be great is if a customer called up and say, hey, the app broke, and you're like, oh, really? So who are you? and they tell you who you are, and then you can go right into App Insights and look at all the telemetry about their session. I'm going to show you how to be able to track all of that data. I'm also going to give you some tips and tricks for how you can make sure that the personally identifiable information, the PII, is extracted away from all this telemetry, so you can make sure that stuff is not tied to specific users, because we all know that privacy is a big thing these days in the world of GDPR and other regulatory laws and procedures and stuff that are out there. And users don't like to be tracked. Companies don't like their users to be tracked. So I'm going to show you ways around that, not so much around it, but how to make sure that you address those concerns, because as a developer, we don't care about who the specific user is. We just care that how can I find what your experience was and fix the problem. You're going to learn all of these skills inside of this workshop. This workshop, again, is level up your SharePoint Framework solutions for the enterprise. We're going to cover testing. We're going to cover DevOps. We're going to cover telemetry tracking and debugging, all of these things by the end of the day. This workshop is not exactly designed for a hands-on experience, and it's just because SharePoint Framework, it's a lot of stuff to pull down. There's a lot of dependencies. We need good internet connection to do a lot of this stuff, but don't worry. You're going to get all my slides, you're going to get all my demos, you're going to get everything at the beginning of the session so that you can follow along as we're going through the entire workshop. Sure, if you want to follow along and you want to try and do this stuff on your laptop, by all means go for it. But I find it's better to sit back and just understand everything that's going on. Ask the questions that you want to ask. Don't spend all this time writing down everything you see on the slides. You've got the slides. Instead, we're going to make it really easy for you to just be able to take all this content and go back to your environment and make sure all this stuff works. I hope to see you at my workshop. This should be a great experience for you to be able to level up your SharePoint Framework developer experience for the enterprise to make you a more productive and more powerful SharePoint Framework developer.